Hello again, everyone. I'm Ken Whiting, host of Paddle Tales, and today we're going to talk about paddles. And more specifically, we're going to talk about what's the difference between a $100 paddle and a $500 paddle. And is it worth it? The paddle is your connection to the water. And so, it's important to have a good paddle, but is it worth the difference between $100 and $500? Well, first of all, what is the difference? This paddle that I'm holding right here, we'll start with it. This is the Aquabound Stingray hybrid paddle. It's got a fiberglass shaft and it's got fiberglass reinforced nylon blades. This paddle retails for around $150 American. Now, the other paddle, this paddle, is the Aquabound Whiskey bent shaft fiberglass paddle. Now, it has a fully carbon shaft, a fully carbon bent shaft. It's got compression molded fiberglass blades. This one retails, actually not for $500, this one retails for around $400 US, and but you can upgrade it. You can get the Tango version has carbon blades, and that one's pretty close to $500 retail. So what is the difference? What's the difference between paddles that, this paddle costs basically 3 times as much as this paddle here? Well, materials is the first thing. Having a fiberglass shaft versus a carbon shaft. Carbon is lighter. Fiberglass is heavier and it also is more flexible. Carbon's very stiff. What that means, a carbon shaft is nice to hold, especially for a long day of paddling because it's light. It's also that stiffness transfers into power. Every stroke you take, you get more pop from it because the shaft isn't bending as much. The bent shaft. The bent shaft, what is the purpose of the bent shaft? The purpose of the bent shaft is to put your arms in a more ergonomically correct position while you're paddling. So as you're pulling on a stroke, you're actually pulling on the shaft in a similar direction to, or the shaft angle is at a similar direction to the direction of pull. It feels good after a long day of paddling. And some people really like the bent shaft, other people don't really notice that much. That's a matter of personal preference. What I can tell you is that for me, bent shaft is a nice feature. I don't find it to be an enormous upgrade, but I like it. Is it worth the dollars that are required to upgrade to it? Well, because it comes with a carbon shaft, for me it is. It's worth the extra money because you're getting a much better feeling paddle that transfers more power with each stroke. And it feels better after a long day of paddling. The blades themselves, this being a compression molded fiberglass blade versus the nylon, the reinforced nylon blade, this also gives you more power than the nylon blade, which is basically, a plastic blade, or a reinforced plastic blade. This is lighter as well than the nylon blade. So once again, you're getting weight savings, you're getting more power, and you're getting a better feel. And ultimately, that's the difference between an expensive paddle and a cheaper paddle. You're getting a paddle that's lighter, which makes it easier to paddle for a longer period of time. You're getting a paddle that actually is more efficient, and you're getting a paddle that feels better. Is it worth the jump from $100 to $500? It really depends on how much you paddle. For me, I paddle a lot. And so having a paddle that feels better in the hands and is lighter, there's less fatigue involved, it is worth it. I paddle enough, and that feel is important enough to me to make that investment. If you're not paddling that much, maybe it doesn't make sense. Unless money isn't an issue, then why wouldn't you? The nice thing about paddles, kayaks, canoes, all paddling gear for the most part, is if you really need to, there's a good secondhand market out there. So if you start with a paddle that you think is good enough, and maybe you don't get a $150 paddle, maybe you get a $250 paddle, you get a slight upgrade, and you decide, you know what, I really want to get the next level up. It's usually not very hard to find someone to buy that paddle, and sometimes shops will do a swap with gear as well. So it may not make sense to jump right to a $500 paddle, but if you have the money, I wouldn't tell you not to, because it really does feel fantastic in the hands. I don't know if that solved the question or solved the problem, answered the question, or if that actually created more questions for you, but that's all I got for you. Hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to Paddle TV if you haven't already. Check out the Paddle Tales series. The link is in the description box down below, and we'll see you again soon for another paddling tip.